following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Welcome to the MorganMan Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Stacy Cole Morgan. Here on the MorganMan Sports Podcast, we talk Atlanta Falcons news, pre-game predictions, and all other news surrounding the Atlanta Falcons.
Touchdown, Atlanta!
Also on the podcast, we talk Call of Duty League, esports, covering Roster Mania, major predictions, COD champs, player trades, and much more to get you ready for every single CDL weekend.
Scum goes through, and Scum snaps, wins the one-on-one in optic with the reverse sweep.
If that sounds good with you, put on your Falcons jersey, grab your gaming headset, and let's get this show started. What is going on, you guys? I'm your host, Stacy Cole Morgan, and you're listening to the MorganMan Sports Podcast here on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Goodbye HQ, or wherever you find your preferred podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are talking about the Atlanta FaZe with their tremendous bounce back from the opening weekend of the CDL 2025 all the way to your Modern 1 tournament champions. That just was crowned this past Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. And also, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the Atlanta FaZe taking on the Minnesota Rokkr in the Major 1 tournament online qualifiers. So without any further delay, let's go to get straight into today's action. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and get into the matches that happened this past weekend right here, guys. And let me tell you, it was astonishing for the Atlanta FaZe. So the Atlanta FaZe practically went undefeated all weekend long during the Minor 1 tournament. So to kick off practically the Minor 1 tournament, the Atlanta FaZe did defeat the Miami Heretics in a 3-1 fashion. And you're sitting here thinking, okay, well, the Miami Heretics, they're about the 6th, 7th best team in the league. So they're going to give FaZe a run for their money. Well, wrong, because the Atlanta FaZe turned things around and really brought the heat to the Heretics. Then Saturday rolls around at the main event for the qualifiers, the Minor 1 tournament, single elimination bracket, going up against the Los Angeles Thieves, who had a bye and defeated the LA Thieves 3-1. And that obviously made Nadeshot very unhappy in that series. Going into Championship Sunday, winners round 3, Minor 1, CDL 2025. The Atlanta FaZe, now they did struggle against the Minnesota Rokkr, which will be their upcoming opponent for this weekend right here. Going up against them in a 3-2 fashion. So, like it right there, could have fixed a little bit of things, but hey, I'm taking it. And then finally, in the Championship Sunday finale, the Atlanta FaZe defeated the Carolina Royal Ravens 3-1, the only undefeated team left in the CDL, and the Atlanta FaZe did defeat the Ravens 3-1. So I'm really liking that. So let's break the matches down right here. So against the Miami Heretics right here, guys, the Heretics did take red card 250 to 113 in hardpoint. For Search and Destroy, Vault, Atlanta FaZe did defeat the Heretics in a 6-3. Control, FaZe defeat Heretics in a 3-2. And then Hardpoint Protocol, 250 to 97. So definitely well above the 100-point club. And honestly, that kind of, this whole season has honestly been a 100-point club in Hardpoint for just near about every team so far. And I really am liking that. It shows the weaknesses of certain teams and strengths of others. And I don't know. I just find that fascinating. For your match MVP, obviously that was Simp. 26 out of 34 votes on breakpoint.gg with a 1.21 hardpoint KD, 1.75 S&D KD, and a 1.35 control KD. Abizi went for the entire series. Now, this is, again, for the entire series right here. 75 of 77. Kills and devs. Cellium, 63 of 68. Draza 80 kills, 60 deaths, and Simp 84 out of 65 deaths. So he was your second to main leader in the KD ratio, but Draza does overtake it. But for clutch factor, Simp did win that match MVP. And if this was going to a game 5, it would have been Skyline Search and Destroy, which the Miami Heretics do favor in that series right there. And I think it really would have had went to the Miami Heretics if it went through there. But Atlanta FaZe did clutch up in that hard point for protocol. Going into the Los Angeles Thieves matchup between the Atlanta FaZe. Now, we'll sit here and say I was a little worried about this one right here, ladies and gentlemen, but Atlanta FaZe did prevail and shut the LA Thieves up once and for all. So, protocol, this is honestly one of FaZe's best maps thus far, is protocol. So, FaZe did defeat the LA Thieves 250 to 155 in hardpoint to open it up 1-0. Search Destroy on Skyline would have been will be a 6-2 in favor of Atlanta FaZe. Control Protocol, Los Angeles Thieves did take that one in a 3-2. And in Skyline, 250 to 198 in favor of Atlanta FaZe. For your match winner right there, match MVP was a Beezy with a 1.35 hardpoint KD, 1.67 S&D KD, and 1.03 control KD. Your leading KD leader, again, is a Beezy with an overall 112 kills, 90 deaths, 1.24 overall KD, plus or minus 22, which would be plus 22 in favor of a Beezy, with a 12,857 damage. Cellium was the second highest KD with a 1.18 plus 14 with 11,765 damage points. Simp did fall off this one right here, but only just by five more deaths and kills, sitting at 75 kills and 80 deaths with a 0.94 minus 5. And of course, Draza 82 and 83, 0.99 with a minus 1 with a 10,054 damage score. And then going into Championship Sunday, you got the Minnesota Rokkr losing against the Atlanta FaZe in a 3-2 fashion. So for this series right here, Atlanta FaZe did take protocol hardpoint 250 to 227. Then the Rokkr would bounce back 6-4 and Search Destroy Vault. Control Vault goes in favor of the Minnesota Rokkr in a 3-2. But then FaZe quickly bounces back and defeats the Rokkr 250 to 214 in red card hardpoint. And then goes into protocol S&D, winning 6-2. For that match's MVP, you got Cellium with a 1.11 hardpoint KD, a 0.91 S&D KD, and a 0.17 control KD. And your leading KD person would be Draza in this one, 101 to 97, 1.04 KD overall with a plus 4, with 13,506 damage points. And then finally, in the championship main event, you got the Atlanta FaZe winning over the Carolina Royal Ravens, who would go 2-1 in the entire Minor 1 tournament, as FaZe would go 4-0 in the Minor 1 tournament. So, for protocol, hardpoint, Atlanta FaZe does defeat the Ravens 250 to 166. Protocol S&D, FaZe does win that one 6-5, clutching up in that round 11. Ravens take Vault Control 3-2. And honestly, I would have figured FaZe would have really just swept the Royal Ravens this past weekend, because I'm telling you, the Ravens, there was a lot of moments where the Ravens just did not look that great in control, but they ultimately came up clutch and won at least that gameplay right there. But then going to her Hacienda, Atlanta FaZe does take that 250 to 124 Hacienda is definitely FaZe's one of their best maps ever since the Black Ops 4 days. And honestly, FaZe is looking unstoppable right now. For the match MVP, Cellium wins this one. 1.75 hardpoint KD, 1.43 S&D KD, and 1.31 control KD. And he is your leading KD person with a 1.52 overall with 93 kills, 61 devs, which is a plus 32 differential with 11,483 damage points. So guys, I'm looking at this right here and I'm sitting here thinking, okay, damn, FaZe really is back. There was a lot of people that really doubted the Atlanta FaZe going into this weekend right here, and it's just astonishing to sit here and think, okay, wow, that winter break really helped Atlanta FaZe bounce back. I mean, you could definitely tell it in their hard points. They're rotating better. They're getting their one-on-ones situated. They are holding the point, not just sitting there for 5 seconds and then wandering off. That's what I've been emphasizing this entire time. Now, whether Atlanta FaZe does keep this up is beyond me. But if the performance from what we saw during the Minor 1 tournament can carry on over to the Major 1 tournament itself, and FaZe wins it like they do every year, I think honestly this year is already wrapped up. I think FaZe could win the World Championship in Black Ops 6 right here. So now we're going to switch on over to the Minnesota Rokkr taking on the Atlanta FaZe. So Atlanta FaZe, before the winter break, was 1-3, with only one win being against the Vegas Falcons, and the other 3 was against like Optic, LA Thieves, and I want to say Toronto, if I'm not mistaken, or I think one of those losses, or no, LA Thieves, Optic, and I want to say Carolina Royal Ravens ran that series right there. But then, of course, we got the Minnesota Rokkr, who is 2-2, coming off of the winter break as well. None of the maps have been determined just yet, but if you're looking at hardpoint win percentage, Protocol, Red Card, Rewind, and Skyline goes really all in favor to Atlanta FaZe for hardpoint, except for Vault hardpoint. And the Rokkr is 2-0 in that, while FaZe is 1-1 on Vault hardpoint. S&D win percentage is kind of just over really everywhere right now. Protocol goes in favor of Atlanta, 66.7%, 2-1. Red Card is 0% for both teams. Rewind is 100% in favor of Minnesota Rokkr, so definitely be looking forward to a Rewind S&D matchup for the Rokkr to get that series. Skyline goes in favor of Atlanta FaZe, 66.7. Vault S&D goes in favor of Minnesota Rokkr, 66.7. But overall, both teams struggle in S&D right now. Both sitting at 5 wins, 5 losses per team. So I'm not really judging anything off of that just yet. And for control, everything goes in favor of Minnesota Rokkr. Protocol control, 50%, 1-1. Vault control, 80%, 4-1 in favor of Minnesota Rokkr. But total control win percentage is 71.4% with a 5-win, 2-loss record in favor of Minnesota Rokkr. So Atlanta FaZe, again, they're going to have to really step things up. But if this past weekend is any proof of Atlanta FaZe changing their game style around, I'm taking Atlanta FaZe this weekend in a 3-1 over the Minnesota Rokkr. I think, again, they're going to struggle in that control series because right now it looks like Minnesota Rokkr is a control team, but not a hardpoint win team, which obviously that is clearly showing in favor for Atlanta FaZe. So again, like I said, I'm going to take Atlanta FaZe in this series right here, 3-1 over the Minnesota Rokkr. And actually, the Atlanta FaZe, if you are keeping up with the betting odds, but Atlanta FaZe is a minus 1.22 favorite to win this weekend over the Minnesota Rokkr in the Major 1 online qualifiers. And this is coming from housebets.com through breakingpoint.gg. So guys, what do you think? Do you think the Atlanta FaZe have completely turned things around? Or do you think that the Minnesota Rokkr can end FaZe's hot streak going on into this weekend? That's going to be totally up to how Atlanta FaZe really plays. Again, aggression is FaZe's strong point. And that needs to be their factor in every single series. Because when they had that aggression factor back in Black Ops 5, which was Black Ops Cold War, that's how they won a lot of their series, was pure aggression. Not just this laid back, chilled kind of style that James Crowder has cooked up now. No, if they go full on aggression, they're going to win a lot more series than what they really want to. And win a lot more major tournaments and potentially, of course, COD World Champs and Esports World Cup, which will be way later on down in the season as time moves on. But for right now, we are mostly focused on the Major 1 online qualifiers going into the Major 1 tournament. So again, guys, who do you think will win this weekend between FaZe and Rokkr? Again, I'm taking FaZe in a 3-1 over the Minnesota Rokkr. I think it will be a 3-2 win in the control for Minnesota Rokkr, but after that, FaZe just totally dominates the hardpoint in every statistical category going forward. You guys, I sure hope you did enjoy it. If you did, make sure to like button wherever you are listening from, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you find your preferred podcast. But until then, I'm Cole Morgan. Catch you all later. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.